Okay, and we're rolling. Oh, shit. Hi, welcome to Fohad, the show about my life where absolutely nothing happens. Now, today we're going to talk about a topic that's been literally keeping me up at night. And it's probably keeping you up at night as well. Like, let's just do a little test here, right? Show of hands, who here is watching this video when they should be asleep? Oh, yep. What in the back? Yep. Oh, okay. Yep. Oh. Yep, so a lot of you, right? And I know that's a fact because YouTube tells me what time my viewers are online, and I can see that a lot of you are lurking late at night. We be no besties, it's fine, I'm with you on this one. So there's this growing epidemic right now, particularly among young people, and surprise, surprise, once again, it is due to capitalism. I'm talking about revenge bedtime procrastination. If you don't know, revenge bedtime procrastination is essentially when you put off going to sleep to do things that seem more important or more exciting at the time. It could be as simple as staying in bed and just scrolling through your phone on social media, or something more productive like doing work late at night. There's this growing phenomenon where people will just sacrifice sleep time to do the things that they want to do because they just don't have the time to do it during the day. When people don't have free time during the day due to work, school, whatever else you got going on, it seems like we've found a way to regain a few hours every night simply by just putting off sleep, despite knowing we know it's not good for us. There's this underlying issue in that it's called revenge because we're almost rebelling against ourselves and authority to regain control. So in this video, we're going to talk about revenge bedtime procrastination. We're going to talk about why people put off sleep, the pressures of capitalism, and just some steps for you to regain some control in your life. Now, I'll be the first to admit I have a lot of issues sleeping. I've always kind of had some sort of insomnia when I was younger. It got a bit better when I got older and I started living on my own and I started to, get my life on track. But lately, especially since working from home, I've had a lot of issues sleeping because I don't really have a proper schedule anymore. I basically am tired all day. Every day, I'm constantly fatigued. I'm really starting to struggle to do a lot of the things that shouldn't take up much of my energy. So I'm also making this video as a way to try and fix some of the issues that I found within myself. I'm also going to set up a challenge at the end of this video for myself to basically stick to a strict bedtime, nighttime regime. So this is almost part one of this kind of video. I'll post another video next week after having done a proper sleep schedule for a full week to see any of the benefits, any of the changes I've noticed, any changes to my well-being and general anxiety and stress levels and all that sort of stuff. That's also a shameless plug. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so that you can watch part 2 of this video when I post it next week. And if you already are subscribed, oh my god, hello bestie, how are you? What's new? But yeah, so today we're going to talk about revenge bedtime procrastination. I want to start this conversation by just briefly going over why do we need sleep? I mean, look, I could sit here and quote a bunch of articles, quote a bunch of stats as to why you need to sleep. We all know sleep is important, right? We know that. We're taught at a very young age we need to get enough sleep. From bodily and cognitive restoration to brain function, sleep has so many powerful effects on our everyday lives that we don't really think about. On a cognitive level, sleep affects our memory, our concentration, our focus, our creativity, our depression levels, our anxiety levels, our stress levels. Essentially, sleep affects our ability to function as a human being. So I guess if you're a furry or you don't identify as a human, you don't need sleep. Food for thought. Although I guess most animals do sleep, so if you are a furry, you probably do need sleep. Comment below if you're a furry who doesn't need sleep. Ugh. So sleep also affects our physical well-being through cellular restoration, right? Essentially, our body needs to sleep so it can restore itself through the processes like muscle repair, tissue growth, protein synthesis, all these different activities that happen when we're sleeping. Sleep also helps us regulate our emotional well-being and our weight maintenance. According to the CDC, adults need at least 7 hours of sleep per night in order to maintain a healthy life. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't think I can remember the last time I had 7 hours of sleep in one night. Probably before the pandemic. When you don't get enough sleep and you're suffering from sleep deprivation, there's just a host of different negative effects. Things like fatigue, mood changes, more anxiety, more depression, poor memory, poor focus, weight gain, chronic diseases, and high blood pressure. All these different things that really affect the way we can function as a human being. Just to highlight how important sleep is, did you know that sleep deprivation is one of the most powerful forms of torture used by the CIA? These are just facts. I'm not making shit up. These are facts. Google it. Do your own research. Back in 2003, there was a Senate report that found the CIA had been using sleep deprivation up to 180 hours to essentially interrogate their prisoners. This was post 9/11, where there was a lot of anxiety around, members of the Muslim community and their kind of relationship with America and all that sort of stuff. It was a very tricky time for the US, let's just say that. Although 2016 to 2020 was also a pretty tricky time for the US. The CIA had admitted to using sleep deprivation as an enhanced interrogation technique. Prisoners who were being sleep deprived by the CIA were reported to be seeing disturbing hallucinations because they hadn't been sleeping for days on end. But despite this, the CIA decided to continue to torture them because America. Anyway, it's really horrifying. I don't want to get into it. Obviously, it's a dark moment in American history. I'm not American, so I don't really care. I'll make fun of Americans all I want. But if you're an American, I'm sorry. We all have shit in our past, I guess. So we know sleep is important, we know that. So I guess the next logical question is, why aren't we getting enough sleep? Why aren't we going to bed at a reasonable time? Why aren't we taking care of ourselves? So knowing that we need sleep but still not sleeping is an issue known as intention behavior gap. Essentially, we know what we need, sleep, and yet for some reason we're still not following through, i.e. we're not sleeping. There's a lot of psychological reasons as to why people fall into the habit of procrastination late at night. And one of the reasons that's usually brought up is essentially just a failure in self-control and self-regulation. But I think that's too simple, and I think the issue goes a lot deeper than that. And I think the more research you kind of do into the topic, the more you'll find the psychologists nowadays are actually quite stumped as to why this has become such an issue so quickly. I think it's a little too simplistic to just say, oh, it's a failure in self-control, oh, people should just go to bed earlier. Like any addiction or mental health problem, it's an issue that's really deeply rooted into someone's psyche. There's this underlying reason as to why people fall into the trap of revenge bedtime procrastination, and really it does come back down to a failure in capitalism. Surprise, surprise. Mamma mia, here we go again. Number 2, starring Cher, an icon, a saving grace, Fernando. Okay, so this is revenge bedtime procrastination, right? The word revenge is really important, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But essentially, we put off going to bed because we want to do things that seem more interesting, seem more important, seem more exciting, which usually the next morning we end up regretting, right? It's a very common issue right now, but it's still a very new concept to a lot of psychologists. So the kind of psychiatry behind it is still kind of developing. And I think we'll start to see more and more people talking about it in the coming years, likely as a result of what's been going on with the global pandemic. Whether you're watching reruns of Will and Grace like I'm currently doing, or whether you're just endlessly scrolling through TikTok as to what next funny video you'll be seeing, a huge chunk of the population isn't getting enough sleep because we're so glued to our devices. And of course, the instant serotonin hit that we get from refreshing your social media feed or switching from Twitter to Instagram, back to Twitter, back to TikTok, or whatever it might be, or even just seeing your favorite artist post something that you've been waiting for on Instagram. I'm looking at you, Taylor Swift. She's always announcing things in the middle of the night, and it makes me wake up and I'm like, We're so invested in the digital world at this point that our minds are more in tune with our devices and what's going on in the outside world than they are with our own bodies and what our body needs. On top of that, the constant effect of staring at a blue light from your phone or your screen or your device, whatever it is really starting to create issues when it comes to our sleeping patterns. But I think there's this other very real and overlooked reason as to why so many people in this moment in time are suffering from revenge bedtime procrastination. Bedtime procrastination has always been a thing, right? But what is it about this moment in time that makes it more about revenge? So the actual term revenge bedtime procrastination is thought to have come from China. In China, workers are being forced to work upwards of 70 hours a week and basically working in really difficult conditions, really long hours, very little time to do what you want to do or have personal freedom. So as a way to kind of rebel against authority, a lot of workers in China began to stay up really late at night and essentially give up sleep so that they can do things that they wanted to do. It was essentially a way for labor workers to kind of rebel against authority and regain some control in their own life. They would stay up late, avoid sleep, and then go to work the next day really tired. It was a rebel against authority. It was a rebel against labor practices. It was a rebel against government, and a way to give people back some time in their life that they feel like they've lost due to work. And that is exactly what's happening right now across the world, particularly in Western nations. The issue completely coincides with the pressures of of capitalism, the constant focus on being productive, and hustle culture kind of making us feel like we need to be working all the time. And nighttime is usually reserved for sleep, so we tell ourselves that we shouldn't be working in those times because we feel like nighttime is our free time, right? So we try and expand that free time by staying up later to do things that we want to do. We're all burnt out from our jobs, we're all suffering from the pressures of hustle culture, we're all trying to deal with the kind of injustices of the world, dealing with a 24-hour news cycle, dealing with the fact that we're living through a once-in-a-century global panoramic between work and studies and errands and cooking and cleaning and socializing and all the other things that we have to do every day that just take it out of us a little bit. We just don't have the time to switch off. We just don't have the time to switch off and to do nothing. And with the line between our work life, our study life, and our home life blurring more and more and more, because of our, kind of remote lifestyle that we're all living in now, whether it's remote work or remote learning or whatever, we find ourselves with little to no time to actually switch off from everything. We found that even our time off isn't really our own time anymore because we feel like we need to be constantly staying ahead of the game, staying ahead of our work, staying ahead of our studies, all that sort of stuff. We feel like our home time isn't even ours, and that's why it's about revenge. Because we're angry with like a capitalist system that has really burnt us all out, and we're angry with the pressures we face as individuals, and we're angry with this kind of hustle culture, and we're angry with having to do all these things just to kind of maintain even like a acceptable sense of a social life. I've made a couple of videos in the past around capitalism and productivity and hustle culture, and you can check those out in your own time if you like. I recommend you do because I think they're pretty good. But in summary, I think this ongoing trend of just prioritizing work and productivity has left us all in a state that's just burnt out, really tired, really kind of struggling to find not just the meaning in our work anymore, but the meaning in life, right? It's hard to look ahead into the future with a positive light, thinking, well, we're stuck in lockdown, or we're stuck with this global panorama, or we're stuck with like having to work countless hours, which is why I think it's not as simple as just saying, get some more sleep. There's this underlying mental health issue that's really the root of the problem that needs to be addressed. It's an absolute failure of capitalism for us to feel like we don't have enough time in our day, that we need to stay up and that we need to sacrifice sleep just to do the things that we want to do. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I have a lot of trouble sleeping right now. I'm always tired, struggling on the daily, super fatigued all the time. So I'm kind of making myself a challenge in the next week to essentially try and get my sleep schedule back on track. I want to implement myself like a nighttime routine to see if there's any kind of noticeable change or any benefit in my day-to-day life. So for this challenge, I want to be in bed by 10 p.m. No phones, just ready by 10 to drift off into sleep and start to dream about Henry Cavill hand feeding me some sausages. So to do that, I'm going to start an end of day routine at about 9:30. I'm going to set my alarm on my phone, then put it away, turn off all my screens, shower, brush my teeth, get my pajamas on, all that sort of stuff. That said, I'm always wearing my pajamas all day, so that'll be pretty easy. So by 9:30, I want to get all my little things done, then get into bed by 10, and then just try and go to bed. I'm also going to force myself to stay off social media after 9 p.m. because I think social media is the root of all society's problems, and also just to help myself get into a more like meditative headspace before going to bed. So next week, I'm going to make a video that's kind of vlogging this sleep journey, if you will, and I'll post that next week and let you know whether I find any benefits, whether I think a week's too long or too short or whatever. So stick around and we'll see how that goes. Just to close it all off, as always, thank you so much for watching it all the way through. I have to say, it's really nice whenever I come up with an idea or a thought, or I just want to rant about something, that I can just make a video and post it online to this little community that we've built, and share our little shared experiences, because we are a community of besties, and what do besties do? They tell each other secrets. So once again, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can join the Faux Club, be part of this little community that we're building, and stay updated. We're all doing amazing, sweetie. Part 2 of this video will be up next week, so stay tuned for that. I might also post another video later this week because I feel like this is kind of half a video, then the rest of it will come up next week. So stay tuned for potentially a second video later this week. So if you like the video, or even if you just like my jacket, it's all Simpsons based. One day I'll show you the whole thing. There's a lot more going on. So if you like it, if you like me, if you like the video, I don't care what you like, just hit the like button. It really helps my channel out. And that's all I wanted to say to you today. So until next time, bye.